Welcome back to Hardball. As November 4th nears and it's only a week and a day off, the number of toss-up states is dwindling. What does the road to victory look like now? Joining me now is the expert of all time. Well, it is NBC News political director Chuck Todd and Charlie Cook. I had to introduce you first. You're the home team. You both are experts. You are the expert. Charlie, you're the vet. The other kid's the new kid on the block, equally talented at this, because I want you to do something now. Chuck, I know you're laughing because you're my buddy. I'm going to squeeze you now.
Yeah,
if
great.
you were on the outside of this business and you were not a journalist per se, would you say that this election was a very good bet right now for Barack Obama? Without saying he will win it.
Look, I enjoy myself some football point spread gambling every once in a while. You know, not for real money, for all the fake stuff. But let's say I would take Obama and give the points, whatever they were right now, if that's what you were saying. Guess what?
Yeah.
I don't always fare very well on Saturdays and Sundays with my fake Monopoly money that I gamble with. But I would sit there and say it feels like that you would want to take Obama and give the points, depending on what the spread was. But you sit there, and that's how I describe our map right now, which is, you know what? Obama's up. He's up in enough states. He's favored in enough states that add up to 286, probably by at least a 5-point margin or more at this point. And, you know, their upsets happen every weekend.
You know, Charlie, I'm not sure I believe in any Eastern religions, but I know I don't, but I hear about karma. That sense that sometimes the time is right, the atmosphere is right for you, the cosmic goodness is out there, and badness is there as well. If I were John McCain, I'd say, let me see. Last week started off with the most respected Republican in the country, Colin Powell, strongly endorsing my opponent, who's a Democrat. This week began with 2 news stories on Monday, some sort of pathetic but horrible because of its conception assassination effort, and secondly, the conviction on 7 felony counts of the senior Republican in the U.S. Senate who happens to be from the same state as my running mate. I would say karma is bad for John McCain right now.
Chris, I would say the odds today are better that you would root on television against the Phillies than of John McCain winning this general election. You just have to wonder, what would it take? Would it, Israel taking out an Iranian nuclear facility, Russia going into the Ukraine. I mean, it would just take something monumental.
That's a crib sheet. Be careful with that crib sheet. Don't be passing that one out.
Yeah, but it's never over till it's over, but boy, it sure as hell looks over.
You know, I wanted to ask you the second top question. At what point does a popular vote spread overwhelm the map? Chuck.
Well, I think we're getting there because...
you can tell if there's a certain spread, you know who's going to win. Without knowing the electoral...
I can tell you this. I know, talking to McCain folks, that they sit there and say if they can get it within 4 nationally, they think that's a way to get to 270, that they can get there. When you see this thing hit 5, 6, or 7, then you know what? That doesn't mean just Florida and Ohio. That probably means Indiana as well, Missouri. And then that's when this thing goes from being this 290 to 260 spread to where all of a sudden Obama's looking at a 325 or a 335 type of night electorally.
Yeah,
Chris,
I
love the way you did it. So the basic idea... Yeah, the basic point, if you're in the bunker now with John McCain, is you try to get the popular vote down with a national message against taxes. You go with a traditional Republican message of reasonable self-interest. You don't want to have your money taken out of your wallet. And then you hope that you can win in those states of Florida, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Is that it, Charlie?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, if it's within a point or 2, then, hey, the Electoral College can go some other way. At 3 points, it gets hard. But as Chuck says, once you get over 4 or 5 points, there's a tipping point. And once you get to like 6, that's when you start getting Electoral College-wise into landslide territory. And so we're sort of at the tipping point where if it's on the high end of where we're looking at in the national polls, then we're headed over 300 electoral votes easily.
You know, in election night, Chuck, you and I are constrained. We can't say things that, well, in any way intimidate voting. And that's a moral issue with all of us, I think. We don't want to discourage anyone from voting by saying what the results are because we have inside information on exit polling or projections. But I've been trying to tell people when they ask me, how do you know what's going on in election? I said, watch Indiana. Is that a pretty good leading indicator?
There are 4 states, right, in that 7 o'clock hour that we're going to hit on. Indiana, Kentucky, Georgia, and Virginia. We're going to know, Chris, if we're calling states for Obama before 8 o'clock, that it's going to be a big night for Obama. If we're not
so if he wins any of those four,
before 8 o'clock, I mean, I do mean that, meaning that means the margin is big enough early in a place like Virginia, for instance, or Indiana, that we somehow can call this thing within an hour. You know, that is one way to look at it. Kentucky and Georgia have hot Senate races that, if you want to know, is this idea of Democrats getting to 60, we're going to know early. Are we calling it for Mitch McConnell in the first hour, or aren't we? Are we calling it for Saxby-Chambliss in that first hour, or aren't we?
What about the middle case? What about if we find ourselves at 7:30 or 8 o'clock on next Tuesday night, 8 days from now, saying too close to call? Does that also indicate a good night for Barack if a Republican state like Indiana is too close to call?
Well, I think so.
Or too early to call doesn't help us, but too close to call, I would say.
I think so. I mean, I think the split decision is, if we go back to our traditional roots, and Indiana in the first hour ends up a McCain state, and Virginia is a state that's still too close to call and we can't call it. The longer it takes us to call Virginia, the better the night is for McCain.
I would also look at the, as Chuck said, the Senate races and the governor's race. For example, if Mitch Daniels' governor's race in Indiana, if there's any doubt about that at all, you know, mid-evening, then that's a sign this could be ugly, because Mitch Daniels ought to be winning that thing. You know, as Chuck said, Mitch McConnell, if he's behind, that's a pretty bad sign. Then I would watch Chambliss, and those would be tip-offs. But the thing is, I'm not a big proponent of the exit polls. I don't frankly think that they're very good. I think watch the real data in mid-evening when we have enough real data coming in. That's when it's a sign for Republicans to feel better or worse.
That's a well-founded argument, given how bad we got the exit poll. We all know how bad the exit poll. John Kerry, whatever you think of John Kerry, the poor guy thought he was president of the United States for many hours last election day. Let me ask you both, starting with Chuck. I voted today in Maryland. You can vote. You can go in there and vote early. It's called absentee balloting, but you basically go into a place in Rockville and you get your ballot and you fill it out right there. Who's that helping, Chuck? This early voting. Can you tell?
Well, it's been an organizational tool for Obama. The question is, did he move Election Day voters to early voters, and is that so he really hasn't gained any new voters, or has he really gotten some of these new voters to hurry up and bank their votes now? You've got to assume when you've banked a vote that that's an advantage to you. North Carolina, the early vote numbers, 1.2 million people have already voted. By tomorrow, 50%, there'll be something about 1.4, 1.5 will have voted. That's half of who voted in 2004 in the state of North Carolina. Florida has seen early vote numbers like they've never seen before, and the Democrats have overcome the normal Republican absentee ballot advantage, and now more Democratic ballots have been turned in than Republican ballots. So right now, organizationally, it certainly looks like Obama's got the big advantage on this early vote business.
Ground game. Thank you very much, Chuck. Todd, Charlie Cook, the best of the business.